Question about relationships. What would you say the purpose is of being in a relationship where the person may perceive the other one to be a polar opposite?
A polar opposite?
Polar opposite as in terms of emotions, in terms of wants and desires, you could say in terms of spirituality, in physical health, in mental well-being, from what that person perceives to be a polar opposite.
What is the purpose?
What is the purpose? Why do people go into a relationship with someone that they perceive to be...
Are you in such a relationship?
I perceive that, yeah.
Before we begin to go there, it would be good for us to remind ourselves that anything that exists, anything exists only on the account that there is its opposite. In other words, there's nothing other than the poles of opposites. It has to be. The very structural, if you will, compositional ground of creation is made of the poles of opposites. These are the physics and metaphysics, and they agree in this area, where the physics and metaphysics essentially do not disagree. For anything to exist, there has to be that which will contrast its existence. Anything. There's no such thing as day unless there's night. And the least will be, depending on how poetic we feel, we'll go with many pairs of opposites, many examples. So if that is understood, then this already will answer partially that question. Why would one be in a relationship? I would tell you that you are in a relationship not with a person. It's just a focal point of your attention at the moment. If you pay closer attention, you will realize that you are in a relationship with everything. It's what you give priority or what you give more attention. That's all the difference there is. But you are, and every one of us, without exception, is in a relationship. And that relationship contains the whole myriad of these opposites. There's no way out of it. That's how the world is. That's what the world is. So, if we are to take it further, if we are to take it somewhere where it gives us something else to savor, then the relationship with the other is only a reflection of, it's only that what is perceived on the account of what here is capable of perceiving this or that quality to begin with. And despite the wonders of this world, different people are drawn to different things. There are myriad of relationships. We form relationships with absolutely everything. Even if it's a relationship of indifference, it's still a relationship. We cannot dismiss this as we're not relating this. We could say we're not relating fully, but we cannot say we're not in a relationship. The whole life is that. Us being alive is us being in a state of relating. And just as I said, it's temporarily certain relationships become more in the focal point of our attention. For example, for a scientist who is preoccupied, overwhelmed, or utterly taken over by certain problem that he or she is trying to solve, that becomes the focal point of the relationship. For a painter who is trying to find some pictorial solution to a picture, that is a form of a relationship. It dominates his or her awareness. And the list goes on. For the writer who is perhaps struggling with the stumbling block, at that moment the most important relational aspect is that, the way of the language, the way how to express oneself.
And is it important to move from indifference and to be fully in that relationship, or does it not matter?
Well, you see, it depends where one is. It depends where one is. And also depends how far one wants to go into this. One can, of course, see this from a kind of more of a level-headed approach. And, okay, well, like relationship is here to be enjoyed. So let's see how much of that is taking place here. And one will be able to weigh all the pros and cons, right? All the for and against. And at some point, what we all find out, that sometimes a relationship, when one aspect begins to outweigh, when one finds oneself that one is in the relationship when it's no longer fulfilling, one would want to be out of that relationship. It's natural. One may find reasons to stay in that relationship, for various reasons. Various reasons. These reasons could be from cultural to ethical to economical, right? There could be so many different reasons. But what is the core question here? That's what is important. So the level-head approach could be, well, it's one's karma, it's my karma. It's your karma, you're reaping the fruits of actions, and that relationship is just one of it. So why would I go somewhere else? That would have to be savored somewhere. That would have to be delivered. But not everyone can come up with that, because it requires a level of courage and maturity, psychological maturity. Some cultures even encourage that. Within the framework of certain cultures, there's this psychological understanding that one cannot have a relationship one wants, period. Because the relationship is not on the account of what one wants, but on the account of what one needs. And this is rather the algorithm of life. In other words, there is always something else at stake. Something else is going on. And that something else requires psychological maturity. When we are adolescent in our psychology, when we haven't really had the chance to grow up, we will, of course, always look for a possibility to somehow bypass or to find an easier solution, easier way. And then we have a whole culture which exalts this as a freedom of choice. Why to suffer? Like marriage, get married, would get divorced. Like I go to another partner. This is all fine. All these kind of like people get stuck in a Catholic or Orthodox Hindu or Orthodox Muslim or Orthodox whatever form of marriage is seen as an anachronism. And it is indeed an anachronism when seen from a certain light. But if we apply here this spiritual understanding, which nothing other than understanding from a more mature psychological perspective, then we will realize that there is no such thing as a relationship that we want. In New Age books, attract your relationship. Stick it on the fridge. Keep sticking, you know. Like, start, maybe let's patent it, I have an idea. I never had it before, you see. I knew it's going to be inspirational night. You know, people put pictures of, like...
Vision board.
Yeah, vision board with the person that how you want it to look, you know, roughly as well. How about having them as a see-through transparency, you know, like almost as a slide? Are you with me, all of you? And then start sticking one on top of each other. You know, it's like, I want something from that person. There we go. Yes, but, you know, okay. And then, you know, like you'll get that image. It might begin to look a bit spooky, but, you know, we're getting closer to our ideal. Getting closer to that, what we really, really, really want. Well, we'll work on it later. I thought at first I was really got excited, but I still have some. But what you need to see here is just that. And it's very easy to also to completely get the wrong end of the stick here. Because that psychological maturity is required for both, for consciously surrendering into a relationship, or for consciously seeing that that relationship no longer serves my evolution. Immature person cannot make that choice. It cannot. The choice will be either I want to get out of here, right? Or I'm trapped in it and, you know, like I've got nowhere to go. It requires a maturity, one way or the other. Therefore, doesn't matter what questions we have in relation to how we relate and what others are reflecting back to us. We need to work on ourselves. In other words, all relationships are nothing other than projections of our state of consciousness. Wherever our consciousness is, that is what we perceive. And that is what is reflected back to us. Whether you take it literally, metaphorically, or in between, what to apply here, it's up to you. But we cannot suddenly imagine that there is this, it's simply inconsistent with what already the language of spiritual inquiry is. And also, if you read the account of those who had these breakthroughs, that's exactly what they all report. That with the inner transformation, the world transforms. With the inner transformation, the world transforms. Not with the transformation of the world, we transform. To a degree, yes, some people here simply enjoying, that free bus ride. In London, when I lived there throughout the 90s and the early of the turn of the century, there used to be these buses where you hop on, and you stand there and it's kind of like, don't worry, conductor, I'm only here for, you're not really paying for your ride. No, you are paying for petrol. No, you are paying for the wages for the conductor, the driver. You're just having a free ride. Some people enjoy that free ride if others are giving themselves to spiritual practices. No doubt about it. So they are being transformed somehow by hook or by crook. Lucky ones. They go to sleep and there's this shift in consciousness. The field is more amplified. And they all attribute to, oh, wow, life is better now. Whatever better that is, immediately is being, but it doesn't matter. Who cares?